Hey y'all, you know, hindsight's 2020 sometime, and that can be a good thing, but let's be honest, most of the time it's a bad thing. If you if you want to turn me to, and sometimes hindsight can be a misunderstood thing. Sometimes hindsight can be a really yearning experience, but turn with me to Job 42, 7 through 12. Okay, it's Job 42, 7 through 12. I don't know if this matters or not, but I'm reading out the New King James Version, so my translation may be a little different than yours. And so it was, after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore take for yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams, go to my servant Job, and offer for yourselves the burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept him. Yet I deal with you according to your folly, because you've not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So, well, I want to stop for a minute right there. So, the Lord's angry with Job's friends. He's angry because, as he says in verse 7, he had not, they made false claims about him. They didn't speak about him what is right. Now, this is important to remember. Now, they didn't mean to. They didn't do it on purpose. They didn't do it out of malintent. They sat with Job for 3 days and nights. But when they opened their mouths, they said, okay, what did you do wrong, Job? You obviously did something wrong. If the Lord is quote unquote punishing you, you obviously did something wrong. So what did you do wrong? What could you have done better? And that's the big question sometimes, especially when your life seemingly gets turned upside down, as Job did. You may think to yourself, okay, if I had only done this, or if I had only done this, or maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I did something I thought was right, but was wrong at the time. I don't know. So, it's worth noting that Job's friend didn't speak anything against him and against God out of malintent. They just did with the information what they thought was right. And they said what they thought was right. But moving on here, and this is really important. So Eliphaz the Temanite, okay, it's important to remember that they didn't argue with God. I mean, not that I don't think they had any position to, but they didn't argue with God. They went out and did it. So Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Zerite, and Zophar the Nemathite went and did as the Lord commanded them, for the Lord had accepted Job, and the Lord restored Job the answers when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then all his brothers and sisters, and all those who had been his acquaintances before all the trials and tribulation happened, came to him and ate food with him in his house, and they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversity that the Lord brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and each a ring of gold. Now the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. Now, not my cup of tea. I don't really like animals except for cats and dogs. But that's besides the point. Um, Now I'm not saying that every tribulation you ever face, the Lord is just gonna take it away. And not only take it away, but multiply what you had before, because let's face it, that's not always the case. Sometimes we wish it was, but that's not always the case. But what's important to remember is when it seems like your life has been turned upside down and you're questioning maybe what could I have done right? What could I have done wrong? Did I do something wrong? Could I have done something better? All you need to do when it comes to God is invest in Him. Just give your heart to Him. Just do what is right in the eyes of Christ and do what is right in what is right in the Bible. And you're solid. That's one of the traps that the devil can set. Is when the Lord sets maybe trials and tribulations against you, when the Lord sets those against you, the devil can say in the back of your mind, may not even be in the forefront, may just be a little nagging voice in the back of your mind, saying, oh, you messed up now. Oh, God must not love you. He's allowing all this. He's not making all this horrible stuff happen to you. That's the big distinction. He's not making them happen to you, but He's allowing them to happen to you. And the devil can say, oh, you really messed up now. You really messed up. I mean, you may have fallen out of favor with the Lord. The Lord may not like you anymore. The Lord may not be with you. It's important to remember, like Job, in these trials and tribulations, to stand firm in Christ, to stand firm in God, and to just stand true to what you know to be true. I'm glad it worked out for Joe's friends and Joe's family, but it may not always, and that's a tough decision. When things don't always work out the way you want to, we have the beauty of hindsight with the story of Job and foresight. But where will you be when things don't work out? When things don't always go the way you had planned them, go the way you think they should have, and you're questioning yourself. You're questioning if God even loved you. You're questioning if God is even worth it. Where will you be? Will you be on the side of God, on the side of righteousness? Or will you crumble? And will you curse the name of God? Because, let's be honest, it can be easy to do that. It takes confidence, it takes strength, and it takes faith to go with God a lot of times, especially when things are not going good. And another thing, these trials and tribulations that I was talking about hindsight being 2020, well, the Lord made that to teach you something. The Lord may use that to strengthen you. I mean, it may seem bad in the moment, like it did for Job, but ultimately, if you live for Christ and you live for God, then ultimately it'll work out. Everything will work out, I promise. And God sent that promise too, that He'll never leave you nor forsake you, even when it seems like He's a million miles away. Guys, I love you. God bless you. And I'll see you next week.